Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving into a controversy that's really, well, it's captured a lot of attention online. It centers on a music artist and some pretty provocative use of religious symbolism. It's one of those situations that really sparks that fundamental debate about, art and belief.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how often this happens, how frequently you see artistic expression and deeply held cultural reverence kind of collide. It often leads to these really intense global discussions. It's a theme we keep seeing.
Absolutely. And the artist right at the heart of this particular discussion is Tommy Genesis. Now, you probably know her, Canadian rapper, singer, model.
Well,
Genesis Yasmin Mohanraj is her birth name. She has Malayali, Tamil, and Swedish roots from Vancouver. And she's really built this reputation for being bold, experimental.
very experimental.
Yeah, and as she puts it, sexually charged lyrics. She even calls herself a fetish rapper. So, pushing boundaries. That's very much part of her artistic DNA, wouldn't you say?
Definitely part of the brand, yeah.
But the core of our deep dive today isn't just about her usual style. It's specifically about her recent music video, the track True Blue. That's what ignited this huge controversy. And the debate really revolves around two key things: her portrayal of the Hindu goddess Kali, and a pretty distinct scene involving a Christian cross.
And that's exactly why we're digging into this today. Our mission really is to explore the different perspectives. Look at what our sources are saying about this clash. Artistic license versus respect for cultural symbols. This whole incident really highlights a challenge artists face everywhere. It pushes us to ask, where exactly is the line? When art steps into what people consider sacred territory.
Right. So let's get into the specifics here. What exactly sparks such a strong reaction? In the True Blue video, Tommy Genesis portrays Kali. She appears with, blue body paint, a red beanie, gold jewelry, pretty minimal clothing. Then there's this other scene where she's shown, provocatively interacting with the Christian cross and other religious iconography.
And that imagery, it immediately led to some pretty forceful criticisms from both Hindu and Christian communities, as you might expect. Our sources show a lot of viewers accusing her of cultural appropriation, religious disrespect, basically arguing she was trivializing really sacred symbols, maybe just for shock value.
Purely for shock value, yeah.
And social media, it did what social media does. It became this huge amplifier for those voices. You saw users everywhere calling the video blasphemous, tone-deaf, pointing out how these symbols were just stripped of their, profound meaning.
And it wasn't just anonymous comments online, was it? We saw prominent figures getting involved. Indian rapper Raftaar, for instance. He publicly denounced the video, called it a mockery of my religion. And he actually encouraged his fans to report it. What does that kind of organized backlash tell us about how these issues are perceived, how people mobilize online now? It goes beyond just individual offense.
Right. Oh, it tells us a great deal. Yeah. It really underscores how quickly something that feels like a local or personal offense can just explode, become a global rallying cry, especially when it touches on these deeply held communal identities. The immediate widespread calls for action suggest that for many people, this wasn't just artistic misinterpretation. It felt like a direct attack on their spiritual foundation, something that needed collective defense. And it definitely highlights the power public figures have to, galvanize action around sensitive topics like this.
Okay, so that's one side. But on the other side, Tommy Genesis herself has responded. She's addressed the backlash. Our sources show she maintains the video was purely artistic expression and that she had absolutely no intention to offend anyone. In interviews, she's emphasized that the themes were really rooted in her own identity, her mixed heritage, kind of reflecting her experiences growing up with both Hindu and Christian influences in her family. So she's essentially saying, look, this is me grappling with my own roots.
And this brings us to a really critical point that comes up in our sources, that tension between the artist's intent and the audience's impact. So while Tommy Genesis talks about personal exploration, identity, many critics argue that, okay, fine, but regardless of your intention, the visual result, especially putting it in a sexually charged context, inevitably reduces these sacred symbols, reduces them to just props or, elements meant to be controversial.
Right.
And this raises that big question. Can an artist's personal story justify any use of widely revered symbols? Or is there some kind of inherent responsibility to the wider community, the community that holds those symbols sacred?
So the artist says it's deeply personal, it's her identity exploration, but communities feel, profoundly disrespected, maybe even violated by how their sacred symbols are being used. Our sources really pull this tension into focus, don't they? This age-old thing between artistic freedom and cultural reverence. Where do we even start to unpack that?
It's a really complex intersection. It certainly is. I mean, historically, art has always pushed boundaries, right? That's part of its function. But now, in this globally interconnected world we live in, the impact of those artistic choices is immediate. It's widespread. Our sources suggest that artists, especially those with mixed heritage like Tommy Genesis, face this unique kind of tightrope walk.
Yeah, tightrope seems like a good way to put it.
On one hand, their art can be this incredibly powerful way to explore personal identity, maybe even bridge cultures. But on the other hand, the very act of blending symbols or reinterpreting them, that can easily be seen as appropriation or even sacrilege if it's not handled with a really profound understanding and respect for the symbol's original context and what they actually mean to living communities today. It kind of moves beyond just intent.
That's a crucial distinction, isn't it? It's not just about what the artist means to do, but what the art actually does out there in the world, how it lands. So, thinking beyond this specific video, what do our sources suggest about how artists could navigate this, particularly those with mixed religious or cultural backgrounds?
Hmm.
How can they use diverse symbols respectfully? Is there, like, a roadmap?
Well, our sources don't really offer a single blueprint. I know that would be too simple, but they do point to some key considerations, things artists should think about. Many suggest that, deep research is important, respectful engagement, maybe talking with community elders or scholars, even collaboration sometimes. That kind of engagement can potentially transform what might look like appropriation into genuine cross-cultural dialogue. The debate also often shifts depending on whether the artist is seen as an insider or an outsider to the culture they're referencing. And for artists like Tommy Genesis, whose own identity is entwined with these traditions, it adds another layer of complexity, doesn't it? How do you critique or reinterpret your own heritage without causing offense within it? It really seems to boil down to a heightened awareness of context and impact, rather than just, raw self-expression.
Yeah, that makes sense. And if we sort of connect this to the bigger picture, this whole incident with Tommy Genesis, it really underscores this universal challenge that artists face now.
Hmm.
How do you navigate your personal expression in this globalized world, especially when it touches on things people believe in so deeply? It forces us, maybe you listening, to consider the impact of art beyond just what the artist intended and how public discourse, amplified by social media, now plays such a huge role in defining these boundaries.
Exactly. It really makes us realize that the conversation around art, it's not just confined to galleries or critics anymore. It's a living, breathing dialogue, and it includes everyone who has a stake in the symbols being used.
So what does all this mean for you as someone observing these kinds of cultural conversations? Our deep dive into the sources today, it really brings to light just how complex artistic creation can be when it bumps up against deeply held faith and identity.
Yeah.
We'd love for you to chew on that a bit. Consider how these conversations shape our understanding of art, identity, respect, all of it. Maybe ask yourself, do you see this specific instance, the True Blue video, as more creative expression, or did it cross the line for you? And then maybe zoom out a bit. How do you think artists, especially those juggling mixed religious or cultural backgrounds, should approach using these profound symbols? Where do you personally draw that really delicate balance between artistic freedom and the potential for offense in our interconnected world? Something to think about.